All right, we back in here. 93, 93, 93. Do what thou wilt should be the whole of the law. It's about midnight here on the West Coast. So we are officially in the next day, basically. It is now March 20th, right? So today, well, actually, it's going into the 21st day. Today was March 20th. Now we're going into the 21st day or the 21st degree. What's up, Sounds by Luna? What's up? What's up? So of course this is going to be a late night stream. So I'm not going to make it too long because I think I want to actually talk about something else as well. Yeah, I'm gonna make a whole another video after this. Talking about what's going on in LA with the schools being shut down and all that. But we'll leave that for another video. In this particular video, I want to speak about the world hates, or let me explain it this way: the world loves a snake but hates a serpent. Now, on first glance, that really doesn't make sense, because we don't hear a lot of positivity about snakes, right? What's up, Cam? 93. Like when we hear about not, actual snakes, but people that behave like snakes, people that are, very shifty, right? But I did the numerology, so we don't even have to go off of definitions. We can go straight to the numerology, we can go straight to the mathematics, and we can break this down. So we do it that way. When you break down the word snake and you reduce it to a single digit, it will give you the number 5, which just so happen to be the number of Mercury, who we know is the trickster. So the fact that we call people with that trickster spirit snakes, right? What's up, X2493? It fits. As we see, the mathematics will never lie. Snake breaks down to 5, the energy of the trickster. The thing about the world is the world loves a trickster. What do I mean by that? How do we think so many people that have gotten over on people, why are these people still loved? Let me give you an example. When you are a con man, again, you can say when you're doing, street activity, when you're doing, you can say dirty business and all that, that doesn't necessarily make the people hate you because honestly, that's how America was founded. So that the thief mentality is just embodied or embedded into the culture. Again, so that's why we don't look at people who's doing dirt as necessarily negative. But that also goes back to the energy of the 5, the energy of Mercury, because Mercury is androgynous. So Mercury can be a trickster, but also Mercury can be noble. And that's exactly what we see, right? We see a lot of people that you can say are street orientated and then they begin to correct their life. They may start off in the streets, they become rappers, they become entertainers, they become businessmen, whatever path they decide to go in, right? We tend to love that story. That's just the way we are, right? We tend to love the story of somebody who came up from nothing, somebody who had to do dirt, and now, they are able to transcend that madness, right? So we have a certain, admiration for these type of characters. But when it comes to the serpent, now we're talking about a whole different energy, right? These type of people do not get the same type of respect. What's up, Immortal 7293? Because when we break down the word serpent, it takes us to the number 7, which is the number of God. So you can see where I'm going with this, right? Serpent is broken down to 7. What else is broken down to 7? Oh yeah, that's right, devil. Devil breaks down to 7, just like serpent breaks down to 7. And the devil is supposed to be a serpent, right? If we go by the biblical definition, if we go by just how people treat the serpentine energy, What I mean by this is when we look all around the world, we find serpents in the culture of the people. Meaning, it doesn't matter if you go to Kemet, it don't matter if you go to India, it don't matter if you go to China, all the way here to America. You're gonna find serpents, not snakes, serpents. If you look at the voodoo culture, you're gonna see serpents. If you look at the Kemetic culture, all the Egyptian gods and goddesses, you're gonna see serpents. You go to the Hindu gods and goddesses, you're gonna find serpents, not snakes, serpents. So it seems to me that in our original state, in our unoppressed state, we gave honorance to the serpent. Even if you go all the way to Gnosticism, the Gnostics, who were the early Christians, a certain set of Gnostics actually worshiped the serpent. So before they even worshiped a Jesus on a cross, before there was a Jesus on a cross, they put a serpent on that cross. And I'm sure some of y'all have seen that symbol where you see the snake, not the snake, the serpent on like a stick. Let me see if I can pull that up. If for those who may not be familiar with what I'm talking about here, let me actually pull up the image, that symbol of the serpent on the cross. Hopefully this is not too hard to find. I just want to show you an example of this serpent on cross. Now the reason why I'm bringing this up is because you start talking about, here we go right here. Here's just a couple examples. So you see the serpent on the cross. All right. So that predates Christianity as we know it, modern day Christianity, right? Because this was done by the early Christians called the Gnostics. They were called the Orphites, but that goes to the science of the Orphic egg. For those who are familiar with the occult, you know exactly what the Orphic egg is. If you are familiar with the Thoth deck, the Orphic egg is found in 5 of the major arcana cards. But again, if you're not familiar, then you're like, oh, what are you talking about? What I'm saying here is the Orphic egg is a serpent wrapped around an egg, right? Which has its own symbolism. I'm just giving examples of how this energy has been present since the beginning, and somehow it has been wiped away from our consciousness. So though we don't even think about serpents anymore, we only think about snakes. And then we identify people as snakes, who are, scammers and schemers and all that. But again, we don't necessarily hate these people. We may not like what they do, but again, we don't have a hatred for these people. We have a hatred for the devil, though. We have a hatred for that serpent due to, the whole Adam and Eve story. So people have a hatred in their heart for that serpentine energy, but they feel it is okay to be snake-like. It's okay to be, you know, the trickster. We actually honor the energy of the trickster, right? We honor the energy of the trickster more than essentially any other energy. We see that energy more than any other energy. Why? Because everybody's a hustler, right? Everybody got the hustler's mentality, right? That's all Mercury. That is the energy of the number 5, right? However, when we deal with the energy of the 7, what makes the 7 different than the 5 is the 7. Not only is it the number of God, but this is the energy of the underworld because the 7 also takes you to the energy of Neptune. When we are dealing with Neptune, this takes us to the energy of the hanged man and the tarot, which you see a man hanging upside down willingly as a self-sacrifice, right, to activate his spiritual elements. Now, this is the reason this energy is hated because who the fuck wants to do that? Who wants to be the hanged man? Who wants to make that type of sacrifice willingly? Because that's against our nature at this point. We seek comfort. We seek comfort. We want to be comfortable. That's why we bust our ass at these jobs. That's why we deal with the bullshit we deal with because we want to be comfortable. We're not trying to suffer, right? It's just not even in our DNA, especially over here in America. We're so fucking spoiled. It's just not even in our DNA to even feel like we want to suffer. Like, why would you want? Like, we shun that. That's why people join churches, mosques, temples, because it's business. People want to be comfortable in their physical world, their mental world, and their spiritual world. And that's why I say it. Comfort comes from God. That's why majority of the world worships God, right? They don't worship God because they love suffering. They seek comfort from the Lord, right? They want comfort. They're not asking the Lord for more hardship. They're asking the Lord to ease the hardship. The thing is, majority of the world is in poverty, right? Majority of the people on this planet are believers of God, believers of the snake, meaning people can be, you can say, we see this again. We see this all the time. You can be it can be a fucking killer. You can have a straight up killer, but they still consider themselves people of God or God fearing. And they're straight up killers. They're straight up they didn't cause havoc destruction, but they still is a child of God, right? Rarely do you ever hear of people who's doing any type of dirt. It don't matter what type of dirt they do. Rarely do you hear these people claim to be of the devil, of the serpent. You probably have never heard that. And I've spoken about this a lot of times where the people who are terrorizing these streets, the people who are in these government places, just fucking up the laws and making this place, the corruption that exists. If you go into these people's homes, you're not going to find a bunch of serpents and Baphomets on the wall. You're just not going to find that. They're not going to ever claim to be, let's just say, a devil worshiper. Rarely, if ever, do you ever hear anybody claiming that. However, we see that every day somebody's fucking some shit up. Somebody loses control. Somebody's fucking some shit up, trying to harm the next person, whether physically, mentally, or chemically. But because these people consider themselves childs of God, in their mind, this is what makes it okay. As long as I pray, as long as I repent, as long as I ask for forgiveness, this is the mentality, right? People go to church Sunday and could have been, doing some fuck shit Saturday, still show up to church on Sunday in repentance, right? So we have gotten to a point where we don't even take any of these things seriously. And this is what people do. They go to church, they praise God, but then they go back to their fucked up ways the next day, the next week, and it just becomes a cycle. Meaning we have become comfortable with just anybody just do whatever you want, be Hermes, right? Do whatever you want, be the fire, be that trickster spirit. You actually will get further in life if you embody that energy. That's just a reality. Like, I'm not going to sit up here and lie to you, right? I'm just here to show you why things are the way they are. But let you come in the name of the devil. Let you come in the name of the serpent. Let you come in the name of these original forces. Now everybody's looking at you like a foreigner. Everybody's looking at you like you crazy. You can have straight up killers, straight up dangerous people looking at you crazy. Imagine that. Imagine that. But that's the truth, right? They look at you crazy before they even look at themselves crazy. Like, okay, so it's okay for you to do all this. But let me come in the name of the devil, then I was a problem. Why do you think that is? Only thing people say is the devil made me do it, or they claim insanity. Yes, they use the devil as an excuse for their own lack of control of their own human nature. So we see it's okay for you to be a product of your environment, to be somebody dangerous. As long as you believe in God, right? That's the way the world is now. As long as you believe in God, essentially anything goes. So what that you go to jail? You do your time, you get out. You probably got closer to God. Some people go to jail and get closer to God. How many people do you know who went to jail and got closer to the devil? Who got closer to the serpent? You see, that's just like some unfathomable shit. But why do you think that is? All I'm doing is pointing out the psychological death that people actually try to exemplify. What I mean by that is it's okay to psychologically trick yourself, because that's what the trickster does. It's okay to psychologically trick yourself to make you believe that what you're doing is okay. As long as you are, you basically you keep your connection with God. As they say, as long as you keep God first, then it is what it is. This is how people, again, if we just look at human nature, fuck what's coming out of people's mouth. If we just look at how people behave, that's just as long as I keep God first, fuck it. That's what people do. That's just how they feel. That's how they are able to navigate their own bullshit. That again, and this is why we have so many toxic people in the world. Because people are just doing whatever the fuck they want to do, but as long as God is in the picture, it is what it is. Soon as you introduce the devil, now you're the enemy, right? But I'm like, yeah, I ain't broke no laws. So the people that's breaking the laws, as long as they keep God first, but the person that ain't doing any of that, they're looking at this person strange, right? They probably have never even been in the presence of a true devil worshiper, honestly. Most people have not. So let's just be clear about that. Most people have not even been in the presence of a devil worshiper, of a serpent worshiper. They don't even know how to deal with that energy. That energy is foreign to them. It actually puts fear in their heart because they don't even really know how to deal with that. Because how would they be? Because they're too caught up in their own bullshit to even understand the differences between a snake and a serpent, right? So is embodying the trickster energy a bad thing or is it necessary? Well, I said earlier, you actually will get further in life being a trickster. Because a trickster we just use hustler. Hustler is a trickster. We just change the words, it's the same energy. So all the hustlers out there, all the dealers, these are tricksters. We just use different words for it. It's the same energy though. It's all comes from Mercury. This is Hermes, the number five, right? That 5 point star. But when you invert that 5 pointed star, now it becomes a problem, right? As long as your star is upward, putting God first, when that star is pointing upward, it's all good. When you invert that bitch, now it becomes problematic. The world just does not know how to deal with the seventh degree. That's why I wanted to start with the mathematics. Serpent breaks down to seven. And now that we understand, okay, well, serpent breaks down to seven, which is a number of God because the serpent is a manifestation of God, just not the God that is worshipped by the earth, as we call the demiurge. The God that most people worship is called the demiurge. That's why they're able to get away with what they get away with. That's why it's okay to do fuck shit because their God is not the actual God, it's the demigod. The demigod is okay for you to do fuck shit and then ask for repentance. It's not the real God. So a majority of the people is worshiping a false God, and that's why they have a false life and they do false things, and it's okay. It's okay to trick people out their money. It's okay to scam people out their money. It's okay to terrorize people. As long as you keep God first, aka the demiurge. As long as you keep that demiurge first, then all the things you do is justified. But when you remove yourself from the influence of the demiurge and then make your way back to the true God, you must go through the serpent. So even when we look at the Kundalini rising through the seven chakras, that's not what it really symbolizes. See, the thing is, this is what I mean by so many people have embraced these Eastern teachings, they never got to the occultism behind this. Meaning, we're taking all of these things literally. We're taking all these things on face value. It's just like reading the Bible on face value. We know damn well that these writings, these holy books, so called holy books, are multi layered. So if you're taking any of these things on face value, you are missing a lot of the wisdom because it is metaphors, it's written in metaphorical language, it's written in parables. So it requires wisdom to decode the parables. You cannot take none of these things on face value. But we're taught to take things on face value because that is the energy of the snake. The snake takes everything on face value. Hence why most people have no depth. And what I mean by most people have no depth, meaning they can't even comprehend what I'm saying, what you're saying. This information, it does not register at all. You start talking about the devil in anybody's household, watch the type of energy that manifests towards you. But let you bring up God. Ain't nobody gonna have a problem with that. Even if they don't really roll with God like that, they're not gonna fucking argue you down about that. You know, you're like, oh, I'm blessed. You know, people say that shit all the time. I'm blessed. I'm blessed by who? Because all I see is a trickster. And you know damn well that's what you see too. You don't see God-fearing people. You see tricksters doing what tricksters do, acting a motherfucking fool with no self-control, right? Because that's their true religion. Their true religion is the worship of the demiurge, which is the false god. So you can get away with this shit. So the only thing or the only protection you will have against this trickery is rooting yourself in the original science that we call the occult. So meaning you must apply the occult to the Eastern science. So meaning you can't even take the Kundalini at face value. You can't take the chakras at face value. If you're just looking at that and you think that's all it is, you're completely missing the wisdom behind it, which never really made it over here to the West, unless you read older literature, like Helena Blavatsky, for example. Unless you, and again, her works was written over 100 years ago, right? So her works are over 100 years old. So the average person is not even familiar with her workings, right? So the average person has no idea what the Eastern sciences truly represent anyway, because they're not talking about this in modern times. In modern times, everything is just taken on face value. That's why everybody knows about the secret. Everybody knows about the law of attraction. But then it's not that you have to ask to explain it. It's just that it doesn't have any depth. It's not going to satisfy you as an occultist because you're like, there is no science behind this. What the fuck did you have to memorize? What work did you really have to put in to get to where you are? We don't have a trail. See, what the occult does, the occult gives you a trail that you can measure other people's intelligence with. You're not going to get that from the snake. Meaning, as an occultist, you can see how advanced a person is based on how deep they are into the occult. Because there are several layers that you must go into. Like I said, astrology, numerology, Kabbalah, clip off the Citra Aqua, right? There's levels to this shit, and most people have not gone past that surface level, nor would they ever go past the surface level because they cannot transcend the six. What I mean by they can't transcend the six is, remember, the snake breaks down to five. So if you're at the five, in order to get to the seven, you must go through the six. But they are not able to pass the six because the seven is a number of God. So you must transcend your worldly pulls to even get to the seventh vibration. Meaning, as I said earlier, seven is the energy of Neptune. Neptune is a outer planet. So Neptune goes beyond the pool of the status quo, which is Saturn. Saturn represents the public. Saturn represents the status quo, right? So when we transcend the status quo and we go into the outer planets, that's where you are introduced into Neptune. Neptune is a planet of spirituality. We develop our spirituality through Neptune. How do we know this? Because Neptune rules over Pisces. Pisces is the 12th house of the zodiac, and the 12th house of the zodiac represents your spirituality, your universalism, your ability to transcend the physical plane, your ability to dissolve your karma, your ability to access your divination, your ability to be the medium. So all those are abilities of the seventh vibration. But again, in order to even access the seventh vibration, you must transcend the six, which is just your worldly pulls. Basically, everything that I have been talking about recently, by being able to control your diet, being able to eat when you decide to eat, not when your body says it's hungry, to drink when you decide to drink, not when your body says it's thirsty. Meaning you're able to transcend your worldly pulls or your bodily pulls, which the average person has, they can't do it. The average person gets hungry, they're going to eat. They get thirsty, they're going to drink. They have no intention of ever transcending the six because, again, as I was saying earlier, the six is all about comfort, pleasure, pleasant. That's what the sixth vibration represents. Hence why people give a fuck about the secret, about the law of attraction, about manifestation. Manifest breaks down to six. The word manifest reduced to a single digit breaks down to six. So you see, all we have to do is go to the mathematics, and this is how we explain this shit. You see, we don't need dictionaries, we don't need opinions. All we need is the mathematics. That's the language of the universe. You don't need anything else. From the mathematics, you can build an entire reality. And this is how we can comprehend and understand all things. And I do my best to demonstrate that, right? So if the word manifest breaks down to the number six, why do you think so many people are concerned with manifestation? Like that's their for a lot of people, spirituality is a law of attraction. To them, that's their spirituality. Their spirituality just trying to manifest more things. They're trying to pour more physical things into their life. Whatever they feel that they are lacking, they're trying to pour more in, pour more in, pour more in. And that's as far as it goes for them. And we know this to be true. If you start talking about this occult shit to a manifester, they're not going to be able to comprehend nothing you're saying because their mind has not transcended the six, and it ain't something that you can just. It's not going to happen through a conversation. Meaning you got to fast at least 3 days to even comprehend the seven. Meaning you have to cleanse yourself from these worldly pools to even comprehend the energy of the seven. And this is why I speak about fasting. That's why I go beyond health. It's one thing to be healthy. It's another thing to fast. That's you putting yourself under strenuous pressure. Excuse me. That's you putting yourself under strenuous pressure, just like the energy of the hanged man. You're putting yourself under a willing sacrifice because you are hoping to transcend the pools of the six. That's why you see the hanged man doing what he's doing. He's doing that to transcend the pools of the six so that he can born himself again, himself or herself. I don't want to make this, masculine or feminine. We have to become reborn again. Remember the last digits, the 7, the 8, and the 9. These are the spiritual numbers. The 4, the 5, and the 6 are physical. The 1, 2, and 3 are metaphysical. So to even access the spirit world, you got to go through the seven. So there's no coincidence why they gave us manifestation, law of attraction, the secret. They didn't do that so that you can become God, so that you can be reborn as the true God. That was never their intention because, again, they just attracted more stuff, more luxury, more comfort. That's all vibration of the six. And that's why I say majority of the people, that's all they want. Majority of the world is impoverished. So the majority of the world is not trying to transcend to the seven. They're trying to go to the six. Why do you think so many people come to America? They come to America for comfort. They trying to make some money. They're trying to manifest. They're not trying to unlock the serpentine force. They can care less about that shit. This is just a reality. This is how most people are. They're on the sixth vibration. Right? So they don't even know who the devil is. That's my point. The point I'm making is if the devil breaks down to six, not six, seven, if devil breaks down to seven, that means majority of the people have not even don't even have a clue as to what the devil is. Because they truly even know the devil, you must transcend past the six. Now the catch 22 is people always say the devil tempts them, right? The devil's going to tempt you to, cheat on your wife. The devil's going to tempt you to, make that bad business deal that's going to benefit you, but fuck over the next person. We always call that's what the devil does. That's what the devil does. But again, all we got to do is break down the numerology of the word, and then we say, okay, that doesn't match the vibration of the seven. That actually matches the vibration of the six. So all these people talking about the devil is tempting them. No, the devil gives no fuck to try to keep you in this world. See, that's why again I'm just explaining the difference between the snake and the serpent. What people think they're doing versus what people are actually doing. So we have no idea even what the devil is until we access that seven. We got to go through the hanged man. We got to go through that willing sacrifice to even introduce ourselves to devil, which most people will have no clue. Again, you got to introduce yourself through the occult. The devil judges through your knowledge of the occult. That's how you begin to learn who the devil is as the Lord of this world. If the devil is the Lord of this world, what is the language of this world other than mathematics? That takes us directly to Capricorn. But here's the thing. What do you think mathematics breaks down to? Again, you see, we're just going straight to the numbers here. So that there's no argument, there is no debate. We're just using the language of the universe. If you break down mathematics, it's going to break down to the number four, which is the number of Uranus, which is another outer planet. The outer planets are Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto. So to even speak the language of the universe that we call mathematics, you must enter into the vibration of Uranus, which is again going beyond the status quo, going beyond the pools of the world. So to even speak the language, you must introduce yourself to the Aquarian knowledge because Uranus rules over the Aquarius energy, right? So you must be Aquarian minded to even understand and comprehend mathematics because it's Uranus that introduces us to astronomy as well as astrology because Uranus is energy of astrology and astrology goes hand in hand with astronomy, which most people they say, oh, that's fake, that's fake. You know why the world calls not astronomy astrology? The world accepts astronomy, but it does not accept astrology. The reason the world doesn't accept astrology because astrology is learned in Uranus. You got to go beyond the pools of the world. So the world is not supposed to care about astrology because it represents the energy of the outer planet, where most people will never journey, especially if we're talking about the energy of Uranus. If we just comprehend, Uranus is tilted on its side, for one. Uranus is tilted on its side. So because Uranus is tilted on its side, it creates tension that the other planets don't have. So Uranus has a special type of energy just by being tilted on its side. So that affects how the sun hits Uranus. That affects the whole behavior of the planet. And again, that's why the world doesn't accept the occult. The world doesn't accept astrology because that's Uranian. So they're not supposed to. So I'm just describing why the world rejects it. It ain't because they're making an individual decision to do so. This is just how the world works. This is just based on your planetary pools. Oh, sorry about that. Again, like you see, I'm just doing all this moving. The world will never go past the vibration of Saturn that we call Satan. We call this energy Satan. But again, as you see, you're not going to fully comprehend these energies until you go to the outer planets. So if Uranus represents, I talked about Neptune as the hanged man. If we talk about Uranus, we must go to the energy of the fool, otherwise known as the madman. So we go from the hangman of Neptune to the madman of Uranus, as we call the Joker energy. See, there's a difference between the Joker energy and the trickster energy. There's a very vast difference between the two. Because when we think about the Joker, what does that take us to? Gotham City, right? When we think about Batman, we think about Gotham City, which is a very dark ass place. That is the energy of seven all day. Gotham City is the most, as they say, the most corrupted place on the planet. And that world, in that comic world, right? That's why Batman had to even manifest there, cause like, yo, this is the most corrupt place ever. That's how something like the devil, not the devil, the Joker could even. The Joker had to manifest in the midst of that chaos that we call Gotham City. The Joker wouldn't be able to navigate in any other place because it wasn't corrupt enough. It was only when Gotham City became ultra corrupt that the Joker actually manifested. And we see when the Joker manifested, the Joker was able to transcend all of the criminals. What made the Joker stand out? What made the Joker the supreme lord of all these other criminals? What made the Joker the ruler of the underworld, where everybody else had to fall in place? What quality did the Joker possess that the madman possesses that these other criminals just they weren't able to match that frequency? It's because when we are dealing with the energy of the seven, this is an energy of sacrifice. Meaning you're not motivated by greed, you're not motivated by envy, you're not motivated by lust. And as we see, the Joker was not motivated by any of these pools, but all of the other criminals were. All of the other criminals were all about getting money. It was all about having those nice women. It was all about, all of those seven deadly sins. They embody that fully. That's how it became as corrupt as it did in the first place, because they embody all of those seven deadly sins. It was only until the Joker manifested who was able to transcend that. Now it's like they have no defense against that. There's no defense against the Joker because you can't subdue him with the pulls of a woman. You can't seduce him with a large amount of money. You can't seduce him with, okay, I'm going to give you the world. And the Joker doesn't care about any of that. The madman, the fool, doesn't care about all that. The Joker is your favorite. Have you read the comics, the original comics from the 20s or the 30s? The original Batman. You see, when we watch like the modern day movies, they're pretty good, but a lot of the darkness was taken out. See, when we read the comics from the 20s and the 30s, they were based deeply in the occult. It was removed. They had to clean that shit up. I guarantee, read the Joker in the original form. It's going to be completely different than what we saw in those movies. The devil, like it is one and the same. Like the Joker was a lot more sinister in the original manifestation. I read the stories, how the Joker. All right, here we go. I read the stories of how the Joker was even created. They can't even agree on how the Joker was created. They don't even know how the Joker was created. Meaning the Joker came to them the same way Mickey Mouse came to Disney, Walt Disney. Walt Disney didn't create Mickey Mouse. Out of his own mouth, he said, Mickey Mouse came to me when I didn't have nothing. Walt Disney was on his ass. You could say didn't have any money in his pocket, didn't know what was gonna happen the next day. Then all of a sudden, Mickey Mouse came to him. So it wasn't he was just contemplating. Oh, this is what I'm gonna do. It didn't happen like that. He received Mickey Mouse. The same thing happened with the Joker, and that the reason I'm bringing up Walt Disney is because people say how demonic Disney is, right? It got all these satanic messages, all these demonic messages in the Disney music. So that's why I'm using that comparison. The same thing happened with the Joker. It wasn't just a creation in somebody's mind. It came to the creators. So much so that it actually came to two different creators simultaneously. Then they met up. And then they were like, oh shit, I was thinking the same thing. They both had the same idea. Then they came together and they made it what it was. But they didn't invent it like you wouldn't invent a character like a Spider-Man or a Superman. See, the Joker didn't come from that. But they put that in the original text. You don't know that from the movies. You don't know that from these later day comics. You have to go back to the original. And the only place I've been able to find the original comics is on the dark web. I don't even know if those are even available on the web. You probably got to pay ridiculous amounts of money. What's up, Nefertiti? Greetings. The only place I found the original comics is on the dark web. Just to give you a hint. And there's a reason why it's preserved there. Why do you think they preserved the original comics on the dark web? Because it's exactly what I'm saying right now. They made it their mission to preserve that occult information that is in the comics, the original comics, because they were destroyed. You can't even access that energy no more. It's a reason for that because they revealed so many secrets. Because the people were, again, if we think about the 30s, this was the time of the Great Depression. So the people were so much harder. So they had to adjust the comics to match the vibration of the people. So the people, again, the people were going through a Great Depression where we're at war. This is around the time of World War II. So the people were at war, so the energy was very dark, hence Gotham City. Gotham City just matching the energy of the 30s, the Great Depression, World War II, the Hitler era. That's the energy that they had to match. And we know there's so much occultic history with Hitler and the dual society in Nazi Germany, because when Hitler was in charge of Nazi Germany, it was the number one country on the planet. So regardless of how many people hate the man for his actions, Germany was the number one country when he was in charge. He really brought us into the future. Of course, they're not going to say that. They're not going to admit that because of the hatred they have for him, but he did, nonetheless. Whether we like it or not, he brought us into the 21st century. Why? Because Germany was the first country to begin to study nuclear technology. Then America came after the fact due to Albert Einstein. Albert Einstein wrote a letter to the president to let them know, like, oh, look at what they're doing over here. He basically snitched, if we want to use modern day terms. So it was Albert Einstein that told America, oh, y'all need to get up on this nuclear shit because Germany is going to fuck shit up if y'all don't have no defense. So that's why America was the first to use a nuke on Hiroshima and killed 80,000 people. We did that, not the Germans. We did that. We dropped the first goddamn nuke. But we wouldn't have known anything about that if it wasn't for Hitler. But again, we're not going to ever credit him with doing that. He's also responsible for the microphone. So the reason we can even record music is because of him. But again, because of, again, it's a bias. Again, everybody doesn't hate this man. It just depends on what side of the aisle you're on, right? But again, we're never going to be able to see that this clear because of the stigma behind his name. So we're not able to see it clearly, but these are just facts. So going back to the original statement of the Joker reflects the energy of World War II, the Great Depression, Hitler, the dual society, that nuclear technology. That's the energy of Gotham City. That's the energy of Batman. That's the energy of the Joker. You can even say Hitler was like the Joker figure, because he was able to do what nobody else was able to do before him, even though he only had a 13-year run. So Hitler wasn't in charge for a long time. He was only in charge for 13 years. But in those 13 years, he was able to make Germany the number one country in the world. Something nobody else was able to do before that and after that. It just is what it is. Facts is facts. Knowledge is knowledge. Again, when we take our emotion out of it, when we take like the bias out of it, meaning I know when I was growing up, and again I'll tell you, I think I told this story before, but I do so many videos. Let me repeat it because I'm sure everybody's not watching every video. So just in case you never heard the story, I'll tell it again now. So I remember being in sixth grade in history class, right? Sixth grade history class. And I remember, I guess, one day, we was reading history and we got to Nazi Germany. And then that was the first time I actually saw the swastika. So the first time I saw the swastika, I'm like, whoa. I was so impressed by that I began to scribe it on my arms. So both of my arms was filled with swastikas. At the time, I didn't realize, like, I don't know why I wanted to do that. I never did nothing like that before. But it was something about that swastika. I'm drawing it on my arm. Somebody turned around and looked at me like, what the fuck are you doing? They went to raise their hand, trying to snitch. But then for whatever reason, they put their hand down. Cause I'm like, I don't give a fuck if you snitch. What the fuck you gonna do to me? Because apparently we don't have anything to do with that, right? Like we as so-called black people, what the fuck do we have to do with Nazi Germany, right? But that's what we want us to believe, right? There were actually black Nazis. It's another piece of history that we probably would never be revealed unless you go into the astral plane, right? Now, there were black Nazis, which probably doesn't make sense to people if we go by the mainstream story of what a Nazi is. You're like, yo, what the fuck how does a black person, a so-called black person, these are all terms that we didn't give ourselves. So I don't acknowledge these terms. Like I don't consider myself black. I'm like, I'm not gonna take a name that somebody else gave me. We didn't name ourselves black, so I don't give a fuck. I'm not black. But we're just for the sake of conversation, right? They will make us think that that had nothing to do with us. We were intricate in Nazism. We were a part of all that shit. We was there, just like we was there for everything else. So we was there. We were in the Thule Society, just like even in the Lima, we were there too. There were black Thelemites in the times of Alice Foley as well. And again, this is during segregation when blacks and whites wasn't even supposed to fuck with each other, wasn't even supposed to do business with each other. But somehow in these secret societies, you find us there. You find us there. So even in the times of segregation, even in the times where we're not even supposed to be fucking with each other, somehow we're there in these secret societies. These Masonic lodges, it don't matter what secret society you name, we're there. Practicing, got rank. So we've always known the secrets. But again, we have been sworn to secrecy. So we're not able to reveal the secrets. That's what it is. So if you were a part of these secret societies, you couldn't let be known. So that's what I mean by the real history is veiled. The real history of this world has yet to been told. The real history has not been told yet because the real history is super demonic and satanic on both sides. Because we all Wharton. Because we Wharton all slaves. And we know that if we use logic. But according to the official story, we all came over here from Africa. We wasn't already over here. There was no free independent. Again, these are the mainstream stories to disconnect you from your heritage. That's all it is. That's all it is, right? But I'm showing you the reasons why they give us this bullshit. It's not just they want to, and it's not that they want to. Damn, it's like that word. I'm thinking about oppression. I don't know why that word is slipping my mind. It's not that they want to. Damn, that word is. Anyway, they show it in movies and TV, though people don't pay attention. It's because it's veiled. Meaning, if you don't have an occult mind, you ain't gonna catch it. So they know what they do. That's why, yes, they put it in the movies and TVs because they know that we are not occultists. I remember old cartoons. Like, I don't even think I told this before. I remember I watched The cartoons from the 30s, when they used to make fun of Hitler, there's old cartoons that were made in the 30s that were poking fun at Hitler, right? Trying to make him a mockery, right? I remember watching these old cartoons recently after I became an occultist. And I'm like, damn, the whole Hebrew language is in this cartoon. I saw how the Hebrew letters is in this. I'm like, yo, these are occultists, meaning it's clear in the older cartoons. See, in the newer cartoons, it's completely veiled. If you go back and watch those old cartoons and you are occultically minded, you like, yo, what the fuck? Meaning, for example, the Hebrew letter Daleth, which is the Empress, right? The Hebrew letter Daleth is connected to the Empress card. I remember watching an old cartoon, right? And this Empress, she was unable to open doors. I saw it right on the cartoon. I'm like, so you see this Empress, and she, for whatever reason, she is just unable to unlock doors. She can't go through doors. Somebody else will have to open the door for her. She just is unable. So I'm like, that's Daleth. That's the Empress, and she can't open doors. And Daleth is the door. That's the symbol of Daleth. It's the door, and she can't go through doors. She just has a problem going through doors. Meaning she has super strength. I remember this cartoon, meaning there was somebody else in the house with her, but she had super strength. So every time like this man, he would creep up to her, and try to stop her from trying to get out the door, and she would just pick his ass up and toss him across the room. Like she has super strength. So I'm like, so this woman she's just picking up a fully grown man and tossing his ass to all the way across the room, but she can't get through the door for nothing. She got this super strength, but she can't get through that motherfucking door for nothing. So I'm like, when I saw that as an occultist, I was able to, I'm like, what the fuck? I see what you're doing. But if I wasn't occultly minded, I would have missed that shit. But I'm like, oh shit, this shit is obvious in the older cartoons. So if you watch cartoons from the older times, like, yo, that shit is super obvious. These were clearly occultists, and they are putting the occultism in the cartoons. So they are speaking a hidden language. So, and if you know that language, you can see what they're really trying to convey. I didn't know any of this until I became an occultist. I was watching movies and cartoons like everybody else, but when I went back and saw that old shit, I'm like, oh, this is like it's right in our face. They became more slick with it now, but I'm like, yo, that shit is crazy. Like, it was crazy to me how clear that was. And again, I didn't even realize they had cartoons making a mockery of Hitler. But Hitler is the emperor, the emperor, which is connected to Aries, which is connected to the letter Zadi, the Hebrew letter Zadi. Anyway, this is what I mean by if you don't have the occult in your heart, you're not going to be able to pick up on none of that stuff. The only reason I was able to pick up on it because I had the whole alphabet memorized, and I automatically knew the definition, so I didn't have to go to a notebook and like, oh, what does that mean? I would have missed it because it was already in my heart. I was able to note, and this is what I mean when you commit it to heart. When you see it in real time, you're able to pick up on it instantly. Otherwise, you're gonna miss it. Like, oh, what? Like, oh, I know what letter that is, but I don't know what it means. You see it. Any missing element, you're not going to be able to grasp it when it's right in your face. They know that. So they speak a hidden language to themselves, meaning a language that only an occultist will understand. So that's how they're able to veil things. Even in news, when we're reading these news articles, they're speaking a hidden language. You got the mainstream language, you got the surface language, but then you got the language of the occult. Meaning you got to break down certain words. So why did they use that phrase? Why did they use those words? You got to break down the words and see the numerology. It's a whole process that you have to go through to be able to see what's really being conveyed here. Which the average person, they're not going through a process. They're taking everything on face value. But again, that's why most people are just low-level criminals, aka tricksters. Meaning this is what I mean. Like again, I was about to say I'm not promoting anybody to do this, but it is what it is. This shit has been done anyway. People are doing this shit every day, right? It's always going to be a city full of petty criminals. What makes you transcend petty crime is embodying the energy of the madman that we call the fool, which takes us to the Hebrew letter Aleph, right? Which takes us to the planet Uranus, which is the planet of strangeness. When you appear strange to criminals, which is what I was saying earlier, as the devil worship, because all these criminals still worship God, so they're still under the jurisdiction of God. They're still under the jurisdiction of the demiurge. That's why when you come with that satanic nonsense, they're gonna look at you ridiculous, right? Give me 1 second. Let me let the cat out. Oh man, cat always want to wait till I'm doing what I'm doing. On my nerves, right? Cat been sleeping, minding some business for hours. Soon as I started making a video, anyway, that's neither here nor there. Trying to throw off my vibration. You must become the madman when you begin to appear strange to the so-called people that we're supposed to fear. Now you're on to something because we're supposed to fear the fucking police. We're supposed to fear these fucking criminals, right? We're supposed to fear these people with these guns and these machine guns who can do whatever they want, right? The government, so on and so forth, right? But the common denominator between all these people is they worship God. They are components of the demiurge. So when you make your way to the devilish ways, to the number seven, the seven vibration, the energy of the devil, aka the serpent, when you evolve into the serpent, because again, most criminals stay on the level of the five, aka the snake, aka the trickster. That's all there will ever be, right? The level beyond that is the serpent. So when you are the madman, when criminals fear you, when the government fears you, because that's what happened with the Joker, right? The government was scared as fuck. The police are scared as fuck. These criminals are shook. The Joker had everybody shook. The petty criminals didn't have everybody shook. The police was always fighting against the criminals, just going back and forth. Even Batman going back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. But Batman could never defeat Joker. Why do you think that is? It's always Batman versus Joker, Batman versus Joker. For whatever reason, the Batman cannot defeat the Joker. Because for one, Batman, didn't agree with killing. So he would always turn the Joker into jail or turn him over to the police. Then the Joker would just escape from prison. So it just became this continuous cycle because Batman didn't believe in killing. So Batman could have instantly killed the Joker at any time, but Batman is against killing. That's why they are opposites. That's why the Joker says Batman completes me. The Joker is completed by Batman because Batman is against killing. So like, yo, I'm not gonna. The only person that can kill me is Batman. The only person that can take me out is the Batman. So the only person that can take me out refuses to take me out. So we're just gonna go at it. What does that remind you of? What energy is constantly going at each other? I'll give you a hint. The clip off. I'll give you a hint. The clip off. Because he didn't care about the money, the Joker make him break his code to prove he and Batman were the same. And that's the thing that reminds you of the clip off, the first clipper called Thaumiel. Thaumiel is ruled by Satan and Moloch. It is a twin god. So while everybody believes in this singular God, when you get introduced into the clip off, that singular God becomes a twin God. These twin gods are always at each other's necks. That's how they generate the energy of the clip off, because these two gods are always at each other. Same thing as Batman and the Joker. So they create because they refuse to kill each other. Joker refuses to kill Batman. Batman refuses to kill Joker. It's because they can't kill each other, because they are one and the same, because they both rule over the same clipper. That's why it's very hard and challenging to understand the clip off and real dark energy, real evil, because you have to completely reverse your thinking. The singular must become dualistic. And from that dualism is creation allowed. All right? That's how it works. Give me 1 second here. All right. So the dualism is what creates. The dualism is what manifests the energy. This is why most people stay away from the darkness. This is why most people stay away from these type of sciences, because it completely warps and transforms your way of thinking. You're like, oh damn, the world is created from chaos versus order. Because when we read the Bible, what does it say? God created this. God created that. God formed this. God formed that. It seems very orderly, right? This one God would just start creating shit. That's the story that we are introduced, whether it's the Bible, the Quran, whatever. It's always starting with God create this, God create that on a 6 day period, rest on the seventh day, right? But when it comes to the clip off, when it comes to the Citra Aqua, now you have a dualism. So now if there's no peace, actually the world is created through the chaos. It is the chaos from the battle of these two gods that creates. So as long as they stay at war, the world functions. Hence Gotham City. As long as Batman and Joker are at war but refuse to kill each other, everything stays exactly how it needs to be. So they are actually the medium that keeps the city going. The city keeps going because of Batman and the Joker's war against each other. So this is what I mean by the old school comics followed this science directly. And over time, they begin to whitewash it and make it more mainstream. So that's why when we read this stuff now and when we watch these movies now, it doesn't go into any of this. But when you go back to the original ones, it's very easy to comprehend. Meaning, if you are an occultist, you probably would have more fun reading the older comics than the newer comics, which is just, it's nothing. There's no depth there. It's just, they're just using the imagery to keep the franchise going. There's not any depth, there's not occultism. But when you read that older stuff, you're like, God damn, like this shit is filled with occultism. You won't believe this shit. Like, God damn, like it's like, yo, like these are clearly occultists and they are making this shit known. Like, oh shit, they are really studied up. It becomes interesting to a person like me. It becomes interesting to a person like you who feeds off of the occult anyway. So like, yo, you want occult literature. You want to read occult literature. So of course, if it's Batman, it's a lot more fun than reading some old school literature. Well, you probably don't want to read a 300-400 page book or literature, about the occult. But you'll probably read a Batman comic. That's just how it is. So it's a shortened version of the literature, meaning the occultists read that literature that nobody wants to read, and they put it into the comics. They basically summarize the main messages and put it into the comics. It was always intended for true occultists because they are the only ones that truly understand what's going on. Meaning, you're probably not going to ever hear nobody else break down this shit like I just broke it down. Because how the fuck would they know? If you're not a student of the Citra Aqua, if you have no idea what the clip off is, if you have no idea what the twin god is, then you wouldn't even know how to put these pieces together because it wouldn't make no sense. It's only when you dive into the darkness that you're like, oh shit, I can see this in everything. But I wouldn't be able to see it if I didn't study it, if I didn't practice it, if I didn't open up the portals for myself. So that's the only way I'm able to make these comparisons because I'm actually doing the work. If you're not doing the work, then of course, like there's no way for you to make these comparisons. This is why I'm always giving an example of these hidden arts, these occultic scientists are all in these cartoons. It's everywhere, but you must do the work yourself in order to recognize it. And what I mean by do the work yourself is it has to be in your heart, right? Which is not easy to do. So even when I say that, I'm not saying it as this is easy to do. It's not easy to do. Otherwise, everybody would be doing it. It's not easy to do. It's actually very challenging. But are you up for the challenge? That's what it is. Is are you up for the challenge? Or can you handle the actual truth? Because the truth will change you. The truth will change you. The truth is gonna make you move different. The truth is gonna make you sick to your stomach, and you gotta find a way to heal yourself after that. The truth makes you mad, and you gotta find your sanity again. That's what the truth does. It makes you insane, the fool, the madman, and you got to find your sanity again. That's why the fool is the first degree of the tarot. When you begin to study the truth, when you begin to comprehend the truth, you become mad. You become a fool to everybody. Like you be like people think you're insane. That's the first degree. Like your fucking chaos erupts. And then you basically the millennium pendant breaks into the millennium puzzle. Now you're trying to reconfigure the pieces back together. That's what you have to do again. But that's why so many people are afraid of chaos because yes, chaos will scatter you. Chaos scatters you, and then you have to reassemble the pieces. And when you reassemble the pieces, they're not going to be in the same position it was before it was broken up. So essentially, you have to forge a new self. You have to forge yourself anew. Basically you trying to forge the same image that was before is impossible. Now you must create a new image. That's the whole purpose of going through the darkness to create a new image. That's the whole purpose of going through the darkness because you're not going to create a new image as moving with everybody else, doing what everybody else is doing. They can't create a new image. That's why they can't get past their own karma. That's why the average person can't get past their own karma. They can't just get out of their own way. They're gonna always fall back to that number six. They're not able to transcend into the seven because when you transcend to the seven, it requires you to destroy yourself and rebuild from scratch. That's what the darkness does. That's what the chaos does. It will break you to pieces and you have to reassemble it. And the picture that you reassemble is going to be different than what you are used to seeing. So the you that you thought you was becomes no more. You become who you actually are. Your persona, your ego, all that becomes destroyed. You become who you actually are, which is devil. The number seven, which is a God frequency. And only when you transcend to the seven can you make it to the number eight, which is what God breaks down to. God breaks down to the number eight. So you see, so to even truly comprehend the true God, you must first comprehend the mysteries of the devil, right? And only then do you transcend to the number nine, which is a rebirth. So to even go through a rebirth, you must understand devil and God, not the false God, the real God. But in order to get to the real God, you must go through the devil. That's why I made the devil. That's why I made the videos. The devil is the true Christ or the first Christ. Before there was a Jesus, you had the devil as the original son of God, aka the first angel. That's why the declaration of the devil is not mentioned in no holy book. Why do you think that is? They tell you about God. They tell you about Adam. They tell you about Eve. They tell you about the 12 tribes. They tell you about all this shit. But we don't ever get the story of how the devil was created. But somehow the devil's always been here. The serpent was already in the Garden of Eden. How the fuck the serpent get there? Clearly the serpent had to already be here because we don't hear about the creation of the serpent. But clearly the serpent was already there. So why was that skipped over? There's no mention of, okay, well, God created evil in the form of a serpent that's going to be in the Garden of Eden. And if that was the case, there would be no reason why God would have been mad at Adam and Eve because he know that, oh, I put this shit here. So there would be no point of kicking them out. Why kick them out when you put the fucking temptation in there for them and you know that they was gonna fall for it because they're foolish? How the fuck would they not fall for it? They don't know shit. That's why they had to take a bite from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. There would be no need to take a bite if they already knew everything. So clearly they were foolish and they didn't want to be foolish anymore. The reason why I had to come through Eve and not Adam, because Adam, the only way to get to Adam was through his woman. That's the same right now. If you truly want to hurt a man, you got to go through his woman. It's just the truth. Fuck how anybody feels. The deepest cut that you can give another man is not punching him in the face. It's not kicking him in the nuts. Is if you get to that woman. You take his woman away from him, or you do what you want with his woman and send her back. It's gonna tear his ass up. That's a pain. That ain't a pain that you're gonna just be able to get over. That shit is gonna cut and it's gonna cut deep because you feel like, oh, this is a person I trust, yada yada yada. Right? We know the story. That's what I mean by this is truly about human nature. This has nothing to do with a fucking Adam, a Eve, a serpent, or a God. This is explaining human nature. So the serpent influencing Eve, and then Eve went to Adam because God couldn't go to Adam. It can't be an animal. It had to come through Eve. What the fuck was Adam gonna do? Remember, they were so called naked in the Garden of Eden, right? What the fuck was he gonna do? He's seeing that ass and them titties. What the fuck was he gonna do? All you gotta do is put them titties in his face. Here, eat this apple. He's gonna eat the goddamn apple. It's the same with men right now. Let a woman wave a goddamn apple in his face by rubbing the titties in the ass and here, take this apple. He's gonna eat that goddamn apple. He's gonna be subdued. It's called the art of seduction. It's called the art of deception, which is women do that very well. It's just their nature. It's like if you don't have that third eye beaming, you're not gonna be able to even notice what's going on. Most men don't. It is what it is. Most men have no idea the depths that their women can truly go to. They have no fucking clue because they're stuck on the six. Most men don't even know how to utilize the woman because they're stuck on the six. They're looking at those curves. They're looking at how good the fucking pussy feels. They're not thinking about, damn, this is actually the seven vibration. Oh, this woman is actually deeper than what I even realized. She can actually go deeper than I can go. That's what it really is. That's why Eve was able to even comprehend the serpent in the first place because of her magical death that Adam didn't possess. So yes, he can name all the animals. He can be the big boss. He can do all that. That's just what the story is trying to convey. So while Adam is the king, he's an emperor, he's a ruler, he's all that. But then this humble, feminine women or woman called Eve brought all that shit down. Brought them down to a human level. Is that not what women do? Right? Is that not what women do now? You think you God. You think you the king. You think you the boss to that woman pull up on you. That woman pull up on you that weakens you. and brings your ass down to a humanistic level, that's what it is, right? But that's the way it's supposed to be. That's the way it's supposed to be. I'm not mad at it. This is the way it is. Again, this is human nature. We can be mad at it. We don't have to agree with it, but you can't deny it. It is what it is, right? So the only person that could have got to Adam was Eve because of her feminine attributes. That's why she could even comprehend the serpent. Adam could not have comprehended the serpent, but she could. Let's go to the direct verse here, right? And again, I'm not going to take too long with this. Let me quote directly. Actually, I should quote from the Quran. Let me really twist your ass up because we are already familiar with the Bible, right? Let me quote from the actual Quran, right? So I'm gonna put Eve speaking to the serpent in Quran, or serpent speaking to Eve in Quran. Because I know most people are not even familiar with the Quran anyway, so that's why I'm like, let me like the Bible. That's a little bit too easy. That's a little bit too easy, right? Oh, okay. So what it says here is it says so according to the Quran, it was Satan who whispered to Adam that led to Adam and Eve eating the fruit. Eve was therefore following Adam and was not the primary person blamed. Unlike in the Bible, no snake was involved. That's why I wanted to tell you that. So in the Quran, it was actually Adam that talked to the fucking serpent. Didn't have nothing to do with that. So why do we have two different stories here? And there wasn't a snake at all. It just said Satan. So it doesn't. So the Quran doesn't mention a snake. It just says Satan. Let me give you the direct quote. The direct quote says, "But Satan whispered to him, saying, 'O Adam, shall I show you the tree of immortality?'" So it was not called the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. It was called the tree of immortality from the Quran. But Satan whispered to him, saying, "O Adam, shall I show you the tree of immortality and a kingdom that does not fade away?" So they both ate from the tree, and then their nakedness was exposed to them, promoting them or prompting them to cover themselves with leaves from paradise. So Adam disobeyed his Lord and so lost his way. So according to the Quran, there was no serpent. This was just straight up the shaitan. So the shaitan spoke directly to Adam, and Eve got caught in the crossfire. So why are we getting two different conflicting stories? Why does the Bible tell us, again, this is talking about the same fucking story apparently. It's the same Adam, it's the same Eve, but in the Quran, there is no serpent. And it's not Eve that's being talked to. Adam was talked to directly. So how does that switch the meaning of it? When all like, okay, it wasn't Eve, so now we're not talking about feminine energy. Now we're not talking about death, and we're not talking about a serpent. Now we're just speaking directly about the shaitan, speaking directly to Adam. Now what is this talking about? Now again, there is no mention of the creation of the shaitan in the Quran either. That's one thing they do have in common. They don't talk about the origins of the shaitan. So, but clearly the shaitan was already there. How the fuck did the shaitan get there? There is no mention of the shaitan being created. So they take out the creation of the devil, right? Said there is where? Give me the direct quote and I'll quote it, right? There is no mention. Now the jinn are mentioned in the 72nd surah al jinn. It talks about the creation of the jinn, but there is no mention of the creation of the shaitan. Right? Like you're not gonna find this nowhere. There's a reason for it though. It's not by accident. It's not by accident, right? Because if I type it in right now, so let me type it in. Creation of the shaitan. In the Quran, the shaitan is referred to as Iblis. Okay? So just to make this absolutely clear, in the Quran, the shaitan is referred to, Iblis is referred to as Iblis. So that would be the name of the shaitan, Iblis, right? AKA the devil, which is said to be a class of jinn. So the jinn are mentioned again in Surah 72 al Jinn. It talks about the creation of the jinn being created from a smokeless fire. So we know that, right? So let me just read this, right? So we can get a better understanding. It says the shaitan or the satans are identified simply as unbelieving jinn. So that lets you know right there that there are some jinns that are believers and there are some jinn that are non-believers. So every jinn is not evil, which is completely different. Again, if you take it to the Christian perspective, all demons are basically evil, right? We don't hear about what some demons are good, some demons are bad. It's just all demons are demons, right? So that's another distinction that's different from the Bible and the Quran. So the Quran lets you know that some jinn are agreeable while others are disagreeable, right? Now, it also says some are male and some are female, right? And they are also capable of assuming human form, right? So they are shapeshifters. I guess we may hear about that in the Bible, shapeshifters, so on and so forth, right? Just giving you the extra detail, right? They'll tell you all of this, but we don't. It doesn't speak about the actual creation of the actual shaitan, right? Okay, you dropped a verse on me, 11:18 from Surah Al-Asif. Okay, I got it. I got it. All right, I can pull the verse up right now. All right, let's pull the verse up. Let's see what we got. Give me 1 second. I'm gonna pull the verse up right now. Give me 1 second. Hold on. You see this fucking cat, bro? All right, give me 1 second. Let me let this cat out. The cat just wants to. I guess his energy is too much for it, right? Cat just don't even want to be in here right now. So let me let the cat out once again. Give me 1 second. All right. All right, we're back. This cat is just annoying me right now. And I said the cat has not made a peep in hours, right? The cat has not made a peep. Now all of a sudden the cat is trying to just want to go back and forth from her. But we know what's going on, so I'm not surprised. This energy is heavy. All right, let me pull up this verse. Let me pull up this verse so that we can quote directly from the Quran, all right? 11 through 18. All right, let's get to it. Let's see, 11 through 18. Turn this down a bit. Let's see, what does it say? Hold on. This is completely Arabic. Hold on. Let me get the English translation. Give me 1 second here. Give me 1 second. Anyway, while I'm pulling this up, hold on. And then we'll end with this because again, I got a whole nother topic I still have to talk about. So this will be the last thing. Okay, here we go. Okay, 7. Hold on. Okay. All right. I'm starting from the top because that's not enough context. I got to start from the top. I got to start from the top. That's not enough context. Because if I start at 11, it says, "Surely we created you, then shaped you, then said to the angels, prostrate before Adam. So they did, all but Iblis, who refused to prostrate with the others." So yes, it mentioned Iblis, but is it mentioning the creation? Where did Iblis come from, right? But let me just read from 11 to 18 because that was they quoted that, right? So I'll read from 11 to 18 because again, so let me read all the verses just in case. So I don't want to let me not speak ahead. So let me quote from 11 to 18. So that was 11. "Surely we created you, then shaped you, then said to the angels, prostrate before Adam. So they all did, but not Iblis, who refused to prostrate with the others." Allah asks, "What prevented you from prostrating when I commanded you?" He replied, "I am better than he is. You created me from fire and him from clay." Allah said, "Then get down from paradise. It is not for you to be arrogant here. So get out. You are truly one of the disgraced." 14. He appealed, "Then delay my end until the day of their resurrection." 15. Allah said, "You are delayed until the appointed day." 16. He said, "For leaving me to stray, I will lie in ambush for them on your straight path." 17. "I will approach them from their front, their back, their right, their left, and then you will find most of them ungrateful." 18. Allah said, "Get out of paradise. You are disgraced and rejected. I will certainly fill up hell with you and your followers all together." All right, there's a quote. None of that mentioned Iblis being created. So Iblis said, "Yes, you created me from fire, but where is the verse of that act, that event occurring?" That's what I'm asking. Where is the verse that actually talks about the creation of Iblis? Not Iblis talking about him being created from fire. We know that. We know that the jinn were created from a smokeless fire. But where is the creation of Iblis? Because apparently Iblis is not like the other jinn. Iblis is a whole different class in and of himself, right? So where is it mentioned in the Quran, the creation of Iblis? Where is Allah created Iblis, which was different than the other jinn, which is how he became the top angel in the first place? Where is that mentioned? Now it talks about the creation of the angels, but again, it's not specific. So we're talking about the creation of the jinn, and we talk about the creation of the angels, but they're not specifically talking about Iblis. Just like the Bible specifically doesn't talk about the creation of the devil, right? It may talk about demons, it may talk about this, but it's not specifically, this is when the devil was created, right? Because it's not there. It's just not there, right? So what we're gonna do, I'm gonna end it there. Because again, I gotta make a whole nother video. I'm gonna talk about these LA schools being shut down. And if someone does have the creation of the devil in the Bible, the Quran, or the Torah, or any book, then just leave a comment and I will be corrected. But I've yet to find it. So with that, I bear peace. 93. Do what thou wilt should be the whole of the law. Love's the law, love and the will. We out.